Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today we're going to create some cupcake themed cards with waffle flower products and Simon Says Stamp positively saturated inks. These cards, or this card I should say, was originally created as part of my Patreon a couple of months ago, and I actually refilmed the video and have created this card in a couple of other colorways, as well as provided a few extra embellishments and played with some of the other products from Waffle Flower. Some are newer, some are quite older. Nothing is brand new, however, and hopefully this can inspire you for creating your own cupcake cards with things you may already have in your stash. Or if you picked up some of these products or you want to pick up some of these products, I hope this provides some inspiration. We're going to start with a product that has been out for a while. This is called the Sweet Plaid Texture Plate from Waffle Flower. I've die cut some Simon Says Stamp ivory cardstock using this plate. I am a big fan, and I do talk about this a lot in my videos, of some texture in the background. Sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes it is, more prominent. In this case, it is very subtle. I love of course, it's called a texture plate. So it provides this great texture that will instantly add interest to our backgrounds. I've spattered on the back some of this wonderful gilded wax from Tim Holtz. I love to put a little bit of it in my spatter box, pick it up with a paintbrush, and kind of quote unquote control the spatter a little bit. And then you want to heat set any of the gilded foundry, or it's foundry wax, sorry. You want to heat the foundry wax with a heat tool so that it doesn't rub off as it dries. Next, I have die cut some of the components, most of the components, I should say, for my cards from ivory cardstock. Again, not white. I've really been loving ivory lately, so I'm just going to roll with it. And we are going to take the coordinating cupcake stencil, and that is how we're going to add color to our images. So just like if you were die cutting everything from white, this is going to give wonderful color to your images without having to color them in. We talk about this a lot. Stencils are a fantastic way for those who maybe don't love coloring, don't love their coloring results with traditional markers, pencils, watercolor. It is a way for everybody to be successful, really, with your coloring of images on cards. It is one of my favorite things about stencils is that it really makes everyone create absolutely incredible cards. So I'm starting with Tide Pool and Tropic. This is actually the colorway that I did in my Patreon live. This card is very, very similar to that, and you will see the Patreon card below. I kind of copied it, but I really wanted to create 2 additional cupcake cards and incorporate the birthday candles from this set in one of my cards. They were not used in the original. And I also want to incorporate other products that you may already have in your stash from Waffle Flower or other companies, and that is the strawberry dies. So while this is going to be a cherry themed cupcake, we're also going to have a birthday candle cupcake and a strawberry decorated cupcake. Just different ways to take maybe those products that are newer in your craft stash and combine them with things that are older, or hopefully it inspires you to look at things you may already own, and how can you mix and match and combine those to create one of a kind card designs. Next, we're using Cheeky and Blush to add our frosting for the cupcake. Now, one thing I do want to remind you guys about when you are ink blending with any kind of ink, once you have applied it, like you may be looking at it and it's a little bit blotchy. Keep in mind, as that ink dries, as it absorbs into the cardstock a little bit, it will slightly fade, slightly lighten, and oftentimes even out. Any super harsh lines are going to stay, so you do want to be conscious and aware of that. But any little subtle dark areas or whatever, those are going to fade out, blend, and it's going to look absolutely beautiful when inked. To kind of help maintain the pressure, the color application, get into those smaller areas, etc., I am using the Waffle Flower blending brushes today. These come in either the double-ended or single-ended. I'm using the double-ended, I think, for my cards today. I love these. I love that the barrel of these brushes is colored so that it makes it very easy to be able to have a brush per color family. And I also love the application. The brushes on these particular blending brushes the bristles on these blending brushes are really soft, and I think they give the perfect application of color. Okay, we've got our cupcake wrapper, we've got our frosting. Let's ink up our cupcake itself. For this, I'm going to use latte and mocha. And I will have all of these ink colors listed below. I am using the cubes from Simon Says Stamp today, the smaller sized ink pads, but you could use your regular size ink pads if you have those and prefer those. I have both. It really just kind of depends. You know, how much stuff do I have on my desk at that time? Maybe the small ink pads will take up less room. Okay, you guys, after we have our cake, let's do our sprinkles on our cupcake. Now I am going to save the final step for this to the end. We're going to take Pucker here, which is the third shade in that color trio, and we're going to add tone on tone sprinkles. And you're going to see that throughout the other designs as well. But I do want you to keep in mind that there is a final step, and that is some sparkle grit paste that we will be applying through that cleaned stencil to all 3 cupcakes. I want them all to be done so that I can apply my sparkle paste, let them all sit and dry, and then I can immediately go clean my stencil so that that sparkle paste doesn't stick to the sprinkle part. For this cupcake, I will tell you, I knew I wanted to do a royal blue cupcake wrapper and then a purpley pink kind of magenta frosting. We're using Cadet and Marine for the cupcake wrapper, and then we're going to use bubble gum and sweets and taffy for the cupcake frosting itself. Now, what I want to say about this is, as I was creating this, I had reservations, and it ended up being one of my favorite cards. And I think the reservation was I often love the addition of red. And of course, the cherries and the strawberries are both going to have red in them. So when I initially looked at my purple and blue cupcake, or magenta and blue, I guess, I thought, oh, I feel like it's missing something. I made sure and added multiple candles. So instead of like one piece of fruit in the cupcake itself, there's going to be multiple candles. And I had forgotten, even with the candles, I did a tone on tone with the candles. They're all blue and purple as well. I thought, I just think it's missing something. I think I'm going to need to die cut another cherry. At that point, when I was assembling the cards, which you'll see here in a little bit, I thought, well, maybe, I need to add some other fruit or find some other imagery. But I had forgotten that each of these cupcakes from the Cupcake Toppers die set, Cupcake and Cupcake Toppers die set, I was going to add flags, little cupcake picks, in addition to the candles. And once I added those in, to me, I absolutely loved the simplicity of the card. And all of them, even though there's quite a bit, it's a big cupcake, etc., there is not loads of other things going on in the background. That's one of the reasons I chose to do that plaid texture plate in the background, was that I wanted something in that background to add a little interest as well as that splatter, because the cupcake is big and bold. It takes up a lot of room on the card, but I didn't want to incorporate lots of extra things that detract and take away. Anyway, this is a long story to say that I actually really loved how this one ended up. So make sure and remember, use your favorite color combinations, try different color combinations. This was out of the norm for me. The other two are very much in my wheelhouse, I would say. I'm very much an aqua, pinks, teals kind of girl and red for the most part. And this, I just was really inspired and I ended up absolutely loving it. So here's a look at 2 of our cupcakes. Let's go ahead and do our third and final. For this one, we're going to have some guava and watermelon for the frosting and then finish with a little cherry for the sprinkles. The cupcake wrapper on this one will be seafoam and surf, which these are kind of some of my OG favorite positively saturated ink colors. And it's very much similar to the first one, but that first cupcake we created is more of the peachy and I would say teals. This is more of the pinky reds and aqua. Again, very similar, but just those subtle color changes. Something that I have been thinking about that I think would be super cute. So remember I was saying that I was looking for other things to decorate my cupcakes and I pulled those strawberries out of my waffle flower storage bin. When I was in there, I saw some of the Halloween products from Waffle Flower, the little ghosties. You guys know where I'm going with this, right? Wouldn't this cupcake be adorable in oranges, purples, blacks, maybe some limey greens and little vellum ghosties, maybe a little black sparkly spider web, maybe a little black spider. You could totally turn these cupcakes into seasonal cupcakes by adding in anything. Now, I know I said Halloween, but there's also some really cute snowman products from Waffle Flower. You could make little snowy cupcakes. You could do little Christmas Santa hats on your cupcakes. You could put die-cut snowflakes in your cupcakes. You guys, I hope this starts making you think, oh my gosh, I could totally make these for all seasons. One thing I didn't do, and as I was doing the blue purple that I thought of that also would work seasonally for those of us here in the US, is I think a red, white, and blue cupcake with like some little stars. You could do like a little flag pick sticking out of it. How cute would that be? Anyhow, so just some things to get your creativity juices flowing for other things to do with this set. Again, as I was making these and kind of finishing up this particular project, my mind really started going to all the different things that you could really do with this, and I love that. Now, of course, there are lots of wonderful sentiment stamp sets that came out with this release or that you have in your stash. You can use anything. I am going to use Waffle Flower sentiments for my cards today, but you may already have things that work in your stash. I'm going to use the cupcake themed sentiment stamp set for these, but there's other wonderful birthday stamp sets or whatever. We're actually going to use 2. There's a small, I think it's like maybe a 2x3 set. It's called Cupcake Topper Editions Clear Stamp Set. And it, of course, works with the Cupcake Toppers dies that we are using today. Okay, so I kept my cake the same on all, which is that latte and mocha. And you can see I love how this color combo came out. Look how pretty. I do think this is one, well, maybe all of them were a little blotchy. This one looked a little blotchy to me, but as the ink dries, it turned out absolutely beautiful. Okay, now that we have all of our cupcakes inked up, I'm going to clean up my blending brushes. I just have a microfiber cloth down here that has a little rubbing alcohol in it that I am wiping some of that excess ink off. We're going to take the sparkle grit paste and I'm going back to my sprinkle stencil. And I'm going to take a little bit of this sparkle paste and I'm going to apply a thin layer right through that on top of that final layer. Now it's going to look a little milky white. You can see that right here. But as it dries, it does dry completely clear and it's going to give this sparkle layer or this color sprinkle layer, some sparkle. That's what I want to say. So I'm going to do this for all three, and you can see that I chose to do these all at the same time. That way I only have to go wash my stencil up once. Very easy to do. It's great if you're doing like I'm doing here and you're making a bunch of cards. Maybe you want to make all of your birthday cards for the summertime, and so you want to have, you know, all of your stuff out and get them all done at once. Next, let's go ahead and stencil in the rest of our components. The stem for our cherry. That's what we're going to start with first. We're going to be using watermelon and cherry for the cherry itself, of course. We're going to use sprout, and I cannot remember. It will be listed down below for the green for the stem. And there isn't a layering for the leaf and the stem, so I'm just blending a couple of shades of green into that. But you do the leaf, then you do the stem. That's going to be in mocha. And that's one piece. That's the beauty of these stencils, is it really does allow you to stencil that precisely. And then I'm going to apply some watermelon to most of the cherry, and then up at the top we're going to go in heavier with the cherry color itself to give it that dark look. You'll notice I'm using the negative space from my die cut. I've got a little bit of temporary adhesives, just some post-it tape back behind to help hold, you know, my little die cuts in place. I found having something to hold them to worked great. If you have a sticky mat, those also would be fantastic. I was being really lazy, and so I used whatever was on my desk. Often, because I have a magnetic work surface, I do use my magnet work surface a lot to hold everything down and do all that work. Okay, so let's just move my post-it tape over here and let's do the candles. I actually hadn't used the candles yet. I did not use those in my Patreon live video, so this was so much fun to do. Using Sunbeam and, or pardon me, Citrine and Peachy colors of ink, we are going to do the flames for the candle. Now this would be another good opportunity to use that sparkle paste if you wanted to. I actually opted not to for this. I did a little mocha for the wick of the candle, and then we're going to do the layering for those components. So remember, I was doing a tone on tone really for this one, and we're going to start with Marine and Cadet. So there's kind of a blue on blue candle. There is purpley pink, magenta on magenta candle, and then I did do a blue and magenta candle as well. So you could do just the candles. Think about lining these up, stenciling a bunch of candles. You could just have candles in the middle of a card background if you wanted to. You could use the cherry on its own from this set and just do more of a summer themed card. It wouldn't have to be a cupcake card at all if you didn't want to. Really, really great set. I cannot stress enough how much I love this particular set from Waffle Flower. I think it's amazing. And one of my favorite things that Waffle Flower does is that you'll notice on that stencil, I know it's moving pretty quickly, but the stencil has everything labeled. So it says, you know, flame, wick, the candle. It really tells you what each piece is. In this case, it's pretty self-explanatory, but there's always some stencils that you're like, oh my gosh, what piece first? And Waffle Flower does an amazing job at letting us know which part of that, you know, stencil goes with which design or what you should do first. Once I have my candles all done, I did die cut my strawberries. Now, the strawberries are not a stencil set. The strawberries are actually just a die set. I say just, but you know, I love my die sets. You guys know that. You're here and you probably know that I love die cutting. So for these, we're actually just going to apply the ink directly to our little creamy die cuts. So I am going in with a lot of my same colors for these pieces. This is going to go on my aqua pink cupcake. I am using the same greens, the same reds as the cherries, and I've got several strawberries and several green leaves. Full disclosure, there is a cute little white flower in this set that I had intended on die cutting, but I did want to die cut from actual white cardstock, and I completely forgot. But it's okay. I don't think it necessarily needs it, but I did want to mention that because I did not notice it until I was completely done with my cards, had put everything away, had already made my supply lists, you know, those kind of things. And I realized, oh no, I forgot, you know, as one does sometimes. It's okay. We are going to layer this over. You can see there's a solid strawberry piece and then there's the open die cut piece. For the solid piece, on the solid portion, I'm actually going to take charcoal ink and we're going to ink up the solid center portion of those strawberries so that we can layer our strawberry on top. You could also just leave it white if you wanted to. I've done it both ways. I decided to do it this way today. I mix it up every time, basically. Okay, now that we have most of these components, let's go ahead and assemble these. We need to glue all the little bits and pieces together. I'm going to use a little rubbing alcohol to clean my glass work surface. My glass work surface is from Glassboard Studio. I love Glassboard Studio. It is a magnetic work surface. It comes in many different sizes. And look for a blog post coming the first weekend in May with some more information about the surface I have, as well as a wonderful discount code. Okay, I am assembling my little strawberries. Look how cute these are, you guys. I love these. The other things we need before we can kind of pull all of our cupcakes together are the little flag and cupcake picks. These are from the Cupcake Toppers set. I am going to do a little flag in each with a stamped sentiment. So there's going to be a little sentiment flag, and then there's going to actually be a stamped and embossed sentiment in the center of each cupcake. I did want to lay out my strawberries here. I mean, you would have thought at this point I would have realized I forgot my little white flower, right? But no. But I'm going to lay these out. I'm going to kind of play around with the placement for strawberries. For the cherries, I already knew how the cherry one went together. You stick the little stem there into the little cut in your cherry, and then I put a little glue on the back. So I am going to do that for the cherries. Now, in the cherry or on the cherry card, you may notice that on one of those, I'm just going to go ahead and glue that right in place to this one. This was the card I created in Patreon, and I am actually going to cut one of the leaves off one of the stems here, and we are going to make a double cherry. I just didn't need both of those stems in the way. What we're going to do is we are going to glue the stems in these two cherries. So one has a leaf, one does not. And then up the top, we are going to connect and glue those together. And it really kind of gives it a look like we have two different die sets for these cherries, even though it's the same one. We've just kind of Frankensteined it together to make it work. I loved how that worked out on this card. Using some Simon Says stamp teal cardstock, we are going to use our powder tool to prep it. I already die cut the flag banners from my cardstock as well. And taking sentiments from two stamp sets, again, the Cupcake Toppers and the Hey Cupcake stamp sets, we are going to stamp those on this teal cardstock on those die cut pieces with clear embossing ink. We're going to sprinkle on our white embossing powder and heat set these. This is for the peachy pink, peachy red, and teal cupcake, and the aqua pink cupcake. I thought this worked for either one. This color combination, however, is not going to work for our blue magenta cupcake. For that one, we are going to use a different color of blue cardstock. I cannot think of the color of it off the top of my head. It is listed in your supply list down below the video here on YouTube or over on my blog. I think it's Royal. That doesn't sound quite right though. But it's from Simon Says Stamp, and it is the perfect, literally it is the perfect royal blue. And so that is what we're going to use for that particular design. I did decide to ink up a couple of the components for my finishing for the picks. The base of my picks are from the brushed gold cardstock from Spellbinders. So that's the layering piece, either the banner or the star or the heart, whatever it may be. And then the layering piece I did ink up to match. So in this case, we're going to do a little heart. I went ahead and used watermelon and cherry for this one, and then we'll just pop it into the cupcake. And this is for the strawberry card. So this has a strawberry, it has a flag banner, and it has a little heart. And we're going to glue those into those little cuts into the top of the cupcake or in the frosting. Then on the back, I'm going to take my favorite Simon Says Stamp foam adhesive, and we are going to add nice long strips of this. You can use foam squares or whatever you like here. Because this covers such a big surface area, for the most part, I use these big long strips of foam and then filled in with some small foam squares here and there as needed. Then we're going to adhere this to the center of our card. Just peel off all my little backing pieces. And look how it pops on this wonderful plaid textured background. So cute. Then along the base of the cupcake, we're going to tuck a leaf, some strawberries, and another little teeny tiny leaf. This leaves room right in the center of the card design for our greeting. I played around with lots of different Hey Cupcake greetings, but ultimately I did decide to use some of the, I would say, more compact greetings. There is one on my desk here that you can see that I thought I'd use for the final cupcake, but in this case, I really think it's a little long. I like when they fit more within the center of the cupcake, but that's just personal preference. I think this long one would have looked cute, and I had kind of considered it for my final cupcake to kind of go down below the cupcake, like down below the wrapper, maybe slightly overlap it. But I really, really liked the smaller phrase right in the center of the cupcake on each. So let me tuck this pick in. It looks like maybe I forgot to glue that down. There we go. And that looks so cute. So let's go ahead and do that for my cherry cupcake as well. This one has the little crown sticking out of it, a happy birthday pick, and the cherry. And then down near the base, that is where our little double cherry is going to go. And we're going to add another sentiment right in the center of this one. Now this, after we have this one put together, that's where we're going to go to our birthday cupcake card, which I talked a lot about earlier, and how it's not going to have anything additional down by the base of the cupcake, but everything else about it is very similar. But it does have a lot more, in my opinion, going on in the top of the cupcake because we are doing 3 of the candles, a pick, and a little banner pick. So let's go ahead and grab that third and final one. In this case, we are going to do a little star pick. You can see I've already got my candles in there, and I'm going to use sweets and taffy or maybe bubble gum. Maybe it was bubble gum and sweets for the star. We're going to layer that on. So cute. And then we're just going to go ahead and put foam on the back of our greeting and pop that right here in the center of my cupcake, just like I did for the previous 2. Each card features a different greeting. I like to do that a lot. And this one says, "Wish your birthday is filled with happiness." We also have our little sprinkled with joy there. And each of the little flag banners actually says something different as well, all birthday themed. Once we have everything where we want it to go, we are going to then put foam on the back and pop that right there in the center of the card. Look how cute it turned out. I just love it, you guys. Again, it surprised me with how much I loved it. Okay, final steps for each of the cards today. On the crown, I did want to add some gems, which I did for the original as well. And we're going to take some, I think I used opal, Positively Dazzling Gems from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm going to add a scattering of all of my cards, not just the one with the crown pick in it. The original card does feature a red clay heart in the center of the cupcake wrapper. I opted not to do that for these, although it would have been cute. Just decided not to. But the one thing, and I almost forgot to do it, is we are going to grab some lawn trimmings twine, and we are going to tie them around the little banner pick in each one of our cupcakes and tie it into a little bow. I talk about this quite a bit as well, but lawn fawns twine, it's something I had been asking for forever, for somebody to bring out this thin, wonderful twine that ties into little teeny tiny bows, perfect for our card making projects. I really prefer something for my cards that is very thin, and it is perfect. It comes in all of the colors of the rainbow now, which I absolutely love. So we're going to use guava and a couple of other colors. I can't remember what now. I will have them all listed down below, but each one is going to feature a different color little bow, and I think it's the perfect finishing touch before we glue our card down to our white base. So in the original, I remembered to do this when I was doing this live. I had forgotten, and as I was looking at my cards, I was like, uh-oh. So I quickly went in and kind of had to fish it through and make it work, but I think it turned out absolutely adorable. We're just going to tighten up that little bow, make our loops a little smaller, and snip up those ends. And that is it, friends. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these cupcake cards featuring waffle flower, stamps and dies, and Simon Says Stamp inks. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you as always for joining me for another paper crafting video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!